with Robert Pryor.
Thank you. My name is Robert Pryor. I am running as an independent for the office of the Martin County Sheriff. One of the reasons I did was because in over 25 years, no one except one party has been able to pick who the sheriff of Martin County would be. This will be the first time in over 25 years that everyone has a chance to vote for the sheriff. I started my time with the agency in 1984 as a road deputy. I worked my way up through the ranks. I learned a lot from a lot of experienced, well-known people, and Sheriff credited me the chance to be the director of law enforcement. When I left the agency, I was the director in charge of all law enforcement activities. I was well aware of how everything was done within law enforcement, and I decided that I needed to go back in and make this agency back more of a law enforcement type agency. So that's why I decided I would run for sheriff.
Dennis Root.
Well, I've been a member of Martin County community almost my entire life. I'm proud to say I have a law enforcement career that spans over 26 years. 15 I've been in service of the residents here in Martin County through the Martin County Sheriff's Office. After leaving the Sheriff's Office, I entered into the private sector, opened my own business, and I was blessed with a very successful business. And it allowed me to earn recognition judicially and nationally as an expert in police practices and procedures, police use of force, and investigations. I'm also the founder of a nonprofit organization dedicated to crime prevention and personal safety programs for the community. And I'm running no party affiliation because, just like our judges, I do not believe that any party should be, it should be not party politics that run the sheriff's office. It should be out to the community. And if I'm lucky enough to earn your vote, then I hope to bring that level of trust back into the sheriff's office.
William Snyder.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Women League of Voters, to the voters that have come out today to educate yourself. I'm William Snyder. I am finishing up my first term as sheriff for the last 3.5, going on 4 years. Prior to that, I worked for I was in Tallahassee for 6 years as a state representative from this area. Prior to that, I was with the Martin County Sheriff's Office for 13 years. And prior to that, the Miami-Dade Police Department. I've raised my 3 children here, now 3 grandchildren. My daughter, who's smiling at me, is sitting there. My middle son, John, former Marine. My son, David, his wife, Amanda, Micah, Laura's husband, and my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and some of the rest of my family. I mentioned that to say that's what keeps me going every day, is that smile.
Thank you. But I have to remind you, you're never a former Marine. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. Is that correct? My brother's a Marine. We'll start question 1 with Mr. Root. What prompted you to run for sheriff?
Well, becoming sheriff has been my life's ambition. It's been something I've been working for my entire adult life. And I was raised to be the type of person that if you see an issue or you see a problem, don't just bring the problem to the table, because otherwise you're just complaining. Bring solutions. And since leaving the sheriff's office, going into the private sector, and seeing how the organization is being operated, I started to really research and evaluate what was taking place in our community. And I saw tremendous things, that everything from fiscal irresponsibility to the hiding, deletion, or manipulation of public records, and the list goes on. And rather than be the individual that just sits there and identifies what the problem is, I conducted the research, I got with the groups of people necessary, and I developed plans that we can utilize to correct the issues. So what gets me going up every single day is knowing that my family lives in the safest county in the state of Florida, and hopefully as sheriff I'll prove it to be the safest county in the United States.
William Snyder.
What prompted me to run for sheriff originally was after 20 years in Miami with the Metro-Dade Police Department, and coming up here and serving in Martin County for 13 years, and seeing this community, understanding the values of Martin County, falling in love with the people of Martin County. I have always felt that the highest calling was in life was law enforcement and military service. And I have found that as sheriff, it's just the most amazing opportunity to serve. I've loved the last 3.5 years. I've loved contributing to this community, and I look forward to the voters send me back doing it for another 4 years.
Robert Pryor.
I want to say up front, I'm not a politician. I've never run for political office before. I've always been a law enforcement officer. Unfortunately for this job, we have to become one. I said that on November the 8th, after winning, I would become a law enforcement officer again. I'm concerned about the way the agency's vision is being followed. I see a lot of Miami coming up here. We're not Miami. And I looked to see what was going on in the agency, and I thought, we're not following the vision that's been set forth by previous sheriffs who were very well versed in how the job should be done. I learned a lot from doing that. I decided that I needed to get back in because I was very passionate about law enforcement. I wasn't ready to retire, but I saw the political atmosphere coming. I wanted to make sure that I left before that took place. It has taken place. And so I want to go back to where we're in the law enforcement business and not the political business. And make things better for the people in the county and everyone, you know.
Thank you.
I've been told to stop.
We'll begin question 2 with William Snyder. What improvements do you want to make in the Sheriff's Department?
Well, thank you for that question. I think as I look forward to another term as the voters send me back there, we have started down the path of a higher level of professionalism to enhanced and better hiring practices and promoting practices. What I found when I came to the agency was that we were really behind on our ability to do e-reporting, electronic reporting. And so I think going forward in the next 4 years, we've made tremendous strides. We need to keep doing that. We've seen a crime rate drop every year, thankfully, because of the hard work of the men and women in the sheriff's office. I can do my part, but they're the ones that have driven the crime rate down. And so in the next 4 years, I would like to continue encouraging them, getting them the best equipment possible, and publicly say I'd like to get them a raise and the best salary that I can get them.
Robert Pryor.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. What improvements do you want to make in the Sheriff's Department?
One of the things I want to do is delete areas of the sheriff's office that are not law enforcement related and not support for law enforcement. There seems to be a lot of agency fluff, if you want to call it. And I feel that we need to first address that because your tax dollars are paying for a lot of things that's not law enforcement related. I think I'd also like to see, or I definitely would like to see, us go back to more youth programs. Some youth programs that were in place have now fallen off to the wayside. And I've always said, if we don't deal with them when they're young, we'll deal with them when they're older. So I'd really like to see us get back in that. Also the budget. The budget seems to be out of control. It continues to go up every year. And I know there are ways to cut the budget back. I've been there, I've done it, and I want to see us go back to not charging the taxpayers for things that we really don't need in law enforcement. And that's an easy thing to do, we just have to get started. And so I look forward to doing that as quickly as possible.
Dennis Root.
The first thing that I think that would need to be done is we have to improve the transparency and accountability of the agency to ensure that the information that's actually being provided is reflective of what's taking place, not only within the organization, but within the county as a whole. Crime statistic reporting, as well as what's taking place with the funds and how they're being invested. I'd like to see the agency go to a philosophy of community policing, not as a specialized unit, but as the entire organization dedicated to servicing the community in partnership. And in order to do that, you have to have additional resources and manpower. To accomplish that, one of the things I did when I reviewed the budget was I identified in excess of $744,000 of administrative overhead that is basically for its redundant administrative positions that can immediately, once I take office, turn into 13 police officers, sheriff's deputies, in direct service to the community right on the street without changing the budget one bit. We need to change the way we do things, and we need a new way of doing business in this county that puts the community first.
We'll begin question 3 with Robert Pryor. Comment on the existence of gangs and the challenge they present to the department.
There are gangs in Martin County. They're not the Bloods and the Crips that you see on TV, but they are affiliated, some of them are. We had a gang unit, and we were aggressively going after it. You would see gang activity, one of the ways you'd see it was by tagging or you start seeing guys out at night that are just hanging in a crowd that they shouldn't be. We attacked those, we went after them. We were able to remove a lot of that out of the county. Then it came, the new administration came in and said, well, we really don't have a gang out problem in Martin County. So that unit was dissolved. I believe that if you talk to people in the school and in the community, they will tell you there are gang issues here, and I see them, I'm around them, my kids know them, and I feel that we need to address that. As I said before, I think we need to find a way to get youth involved, so we're not going to be finding them later in a gang issue. And we've done that before, and we need to do it again, and I look forward to doing that.
Dennis Root.
Well, we do have a gang issue in Martin County, and the gangs that have been identified as both not only in Martin County, but soliciting our youth from Martin County are the Bloods, the Latin Kings, MS-13, just to name a few. Names that you would expect to see with LA or New York, but they're here in Martin County. And the fact is, we know that they're here, they've been here for some time, and in 2012, even the incumbent noted in one of his answers to T.C. Palms asked the candidates that there were numerous documented gangs. Yet his first action when he took office was to disband the gang unit, take the most qualified gang supervisor, sergeant, and put him back on the road, and then took the gang responsibility and gave it to a narcotics detective as an ancillary duty. So we wonder why we have a diminishing reporting process as far as gangs go. Well, if we're not recording and documenting them properly, of course we're going to see less gang activity. But if you talk to Parks and Rec, if you talk to the schools, if you talk to our high school kids, they're there, they're a true threat, and the longer we choose to ignore them, the worse it will become.
William Snyder.
We have in Martin County what I think many communities style like Martin County, not an inner city community. We have some children who want to be in gangs and act like it. You know, the want to be. We take that seriously because if you want to be in a gang, you're headed for trouble. We do have the existence of some young people who fly the flag and pretend they're part of an organized gang. We do have a very strong, aggressive approach towards anyone who says they're involved in gangs in Martin County. I kind of have a little bit of a heads up because the current gang bill in Florida, I wrote it actually when I was in the Florida House. So we watch for signs of gang involvement. We hit it hard. I think the biggest thing we've done, though, to take the wind out of their sails is to aggressively go after dangerous and addictive drugs, which fuels gang activity. And by doing that, we've been able to, I think, keep a lid on it.
With question 4, we will begin with Dennis Root. What changes to the budget are needed and why?
Well, first we need a complete actual internal assessment and audit of how the money is actually being spent. Again, without proper transparency and accountability, we don't know exactly what needs to be done, but I can tell you that just by reducing the administrative overhead and applying those resources to people that deliver services directly to the community is a big change that needs to be in the budget. We need to start looking at the budget in a way that is like every other business does. The difference between the sheriff's office and private business, we're not a for-profit company. At the end of the year, when there are surpluses for the sheriff's office, instead of having what they refer to as Christmas in July with end-of-year spending and taking the monies, every other budget within our county's administration has budget shortfall. So when we have an excess in the budget, it needs to go back into the general fund so that the rest of the county can take advantage of the funds that we didn't actually need. We budget for what we expect, and if it doesn't come through, then we need to have a process in place of checks and balances that says, you budgeted for this, you didn't spend it on that, put the money back in the general fund so the rest of the community can benefit from it. It's time for transparency.
Thank you. William Snyder.
Yes, we have this year's budget that we're operating on is right on top of $60 million. Very complex and challenging task. That's a great idea to audit, and we are audited every single year by an outside independent auditor. They have never found a problem with our budget. Every penny I spend is public record. There's no way to hide, nor would I hide anything. It's right out there in the open. Anybody can take a look at anything. As a constitutional officer, I'm not required to submit a line item budget. I do it for transparency's emergency safe, but it's my responsibility every year to respond to over 1 million calls for service. We get about 1 million incident report requests a year in the sheriff's office, and to use the budget that's been given to me by taxpayers, to use it wisely and to use it judiciously, and we do not buy toys with it. We're very careful with your tax dollars.
Robert Pryor.
One of the things to look at is when you're asked to review the budget, you have trouble getting a complete and accurate budget. We have to go to outside sources, the Auditor General, to get the information we need to see what the budget has been spent on. Since 2013, the budget has gone up every year. It's gone up 13% since 2013, and that's to the tune of about $7 million. That $7 million is paid by you. And so we need to go through, start the budget, just about start as a zero budget and work our way up to that. And things that are not needed for the sheriff's office, we need to eliminate them. We need to get people back out on the road because there's shortages out there now, which is costing more money in the budget. And so we need to go after those type things, eliminate the fluff, as I call it, and move those people back into law enforcement and support for the deputies that are out there doing the job every day who do excellent work. I think I know from many of them.
We will begin question 5 with William Snyder. What other issue is a priority for you when elected?
The number one issue for me, what I lay in bed at night and think about before I go to sleep, and literally what I think about first thing is your safety. Your security of your cars, your boats, your houses, your children at the bus bench, your wives when you're out of town, your husbands when they're out of town. And the priority for me will be to continue seeing the crime rate drop another 4 years. Now, that's not the only arbiter, and it's not the only way to judge the sheriff's office efficiency, but it is extremely important to us. Our jail population has fallen substantially in the last 4 years, and that is because of our proactive involvement with the community, with our Safe Streets initiative. We will continue working hard, fighting against dangerous and addictive drugs, and attacking quality of life issues so that you feel safe in your community.
Robert Pryor.
One of the issues I look at is people no longer know their neighbors. We need to get more community involvement. Issues that happen in Hope Sound happen in Jensen, but nobody talks to each other. So everyone is struggling to figure out what the problems are. Indiantown doesn't talk to Stewart, so we'll keep going back and forth with those issues. I believe we need to open up each community and start having meetings with them. And tell us what the problem is. The sheriff's office is to fix the problem, to help you fix your problem. There are ways to do that in community involvement, and when we have issues that we can't figure out in one community, ask another to meet with us, because they've probably gone through something very similar to it. Now, I know that you look at the lack of arrest in the agency. The arrests have gone down year after year after year. And I think it's because communities are getting involved, trying to help each other, to point out who the bad guys are. And that's where we come in to relieve those issues, help you with them, and make the community a lot safer.
Dennis Ruth.
What I'd like to see done is a stronger partnership between the sheriff's office and the entire community, every aspect of our county. One of the things that it's going to require us to do is enhance the training that's being provided to all of our law enforcement personnel. The mere fact of having people come in from all over the United States or all over the world to attend training at the sheriff's office is not the same thing as training our personnel. We have a significant lack of training with the sheriff's office, which is going to not only put the deputies at risk, but it also risks the safety of the community. One of the most prevalent things and concerns right now for every law enforcement agency is active shooter events. And it is an actual documented fact that the Martin County Sheriff's Office provided 4 hours of active shooter training since this administration took office. Despite what they may say, despite the image that's produced, it is time that we had actual transparency and accountability in the operation of the Sheriff's Office that allows you to see that the personnel are not receiving the training they need to effectively do their jobs every single day. And a poor leadership style that creates risks not only for the community, but the men and women dedicated to its service.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking these candidates.